Hi everyone, it's JL Rothstein here, author of the Heaven Sent series. My book Atonement is out now. You can check it out on Amazon or you can go to my website at jlrothstein.com. I have a super special guest with me today. I'm going to try really hard not to butcher his name, but Michael Pietrzak. I'm
Perfect. You
getting
got
better.
it.
I
Nailed
got
it.
it. Woo! Welcome to
Oh,
the show, Michael.
thank you. Well, I'm a super special guest. I'm very honored. Thank you. Actually,
I'm so excited for this because I
me too.
saw the website that you co-founded, So You Want to Write, and I had never heard of it before. And I was out there poking around in the last couple of days, and there's so much good stuff out there for writers,
Yeah,
especially writers like me who are new to the industry and their whole focus is about getting better, which is what my focus is. It's not about selling a million copies, although we'd all love to do that. It's more
sure.
or less about every work that I put out, every book, every short story, whatever, that I'm better and better and better. And I
Quality.
think that your website is really focused on that. So I'm really excited. So
Yeah.
tell the audience a little bit about the organization.
Yeah, I can start there. Absolutely. But first I want to say, look, I'm really happy that we connected and found each other. I can see that your blog is doing really well, over 1,000 subscribers, which is growing
Yeah.
like wildfire, obviously. And I checked out your book too. 4.8 stars out of 5 on Amazon. Like that's unheard of on Amazon. You know, you've escaped the trolls and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
not that it's all about the ratings, but congrats on things going really well. So
Yes. Thank you very much.
wonderful. So youyouwantowrite.org is where you can find us. And essentially our mission is to connect writers with literary agents and with editors and with published authors so that people can actually improve their writing and then get published, right? Because it's two sides of the same coin. And I'll tell you how we got started. It was in a pub, actually, where most good
Where all the
writing
best things happen.
stories start. Yeah, no, actually, it's actually before that. I decided in 2012 to write my book, and so I left my job and I said, here we go, taking it seriously. Did NaNoWriMo, and I have a friend told me, hey, you should really take this writing workshop from my friend Sam. Well, it turned out that Sam Hyatt was a literary agent and owned his own agency in Toronto, Canada. And so I did an 8-week workshop with him on his couch in his living room every Saturday. And I came and I shared my first chapter, and I thought it was great, and it was in need of improvement. So every week I shared a chapter. It got better and better. My writing improved, and Sam and I became friends, mostly over bottles of wine and things like that. But I just started to love writing because I was being taught how to do it in a way that brought out the best in me. And so that's why we started the company. It was to do the same thing for other writers. So the idea was, let's connect writers with literary agents, published authors and editors, and help them with their craft, right? And then once the book is good enough, you can start talking about publishing. Self-publishing or the traditional route, doesn't matter.
Right.
The idea is just get the book out there, because so many people have this story to tell, and we think that it needs to get out there. I think that's how the world improves. So
Yep.
that's
Absolutely.
the long and short of it. And we started taking this group that we did a little meetup in a pub with 20 people. It grew to over 2,300 people. Now we have 5,000 visitors a month to our website. So we're honored, I think, to be serving so many writers, talented writers.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I just think there's not enough places like that to go and to meet up with other writers and to actually share that experience, but to actually take it one step further and to be reading each other's work and to be helping each other improve in the craft. I think that's the piece. I mean, you could read a book about writing, you could take a class, you could do something online, but it doesn't take that next level where you're getting the critique and someone's sort of helping you to get better and better at what you're doing.
I bang on. I keep hearing this from all the literary agents and the authors that have had some bit of success. You need to share your writing as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I know that writing is a solitary act, but eventually it has to go into the world, or at least we hope it goes out into the world and other people read it. If you can change even one person's life, that's amazing. You've done something wonderful. But finding a peer group of writers where you can share your work, like a critique group, is amazing. They're everywhere. They're free. They're on Zoom now. You can do it from your home. But also to take a university or college course, or take an online workshop or something, so that you are improving and you're not just doing it in your head.
Yeah. And to learn how to take a critique, right? That's no small feat, right? We all like to think that what we put on paper is perfect the first time around, but it's 99% of the time is not. And so you have to learn how to take that critique. And so it's great practice if you're in those groups and you can get that. I know, I've told people the story before, but I hired a professional editor because I didn't know what I was doing and I knew I needed help. And I had taken some classes and I had taken an online class, but I knew I needed professional help. I wanted somebody to look at it and say, these are the things you need to focus on.
That's very wise.
And coming back when I opened it and saw all the crossouts and all the lines and all the notes, I mean, it was a little overwhelming.
Was it daunting?
There was copious amounts of wine that night. And, my husband was like, it was that bad. And it turned out it actually wasn't that bad. It is overwhelming when you first get it. But now, once you have that experience and this person's intent is to make you better and you come at it with a more positive mindset, you're going to do so much better next time around and the time after that. So
that's the idea.
Now I'm actually looking forward to it, whereas before I was not looking forward to that.
Well, this applies to all areas of life, right? So not just writing, where you need to be able to take the critique and improve yourself, but even in other areas of your life, the people that improve the fastest are the ones that are willing to have that growth mindset and just accept the criticism, and you don't have to accept all of it. Of course, some of it is nonsense. If you go to sometimes these free critique groups, there are writers there that have just started themselves and maybe they're not giving you the best feedback. So, you kind of you have to take it with a grain of salt and really use your intuition about what works for you and what doesn't.
Yeah. Or the things that you're just not willing to give up on and trade those off for the things that you are, so that you can really, it is sort of a game. I remember my editor was like, obviously it's up to you what you take, but you hired me and this is what I'm telling you. And I looked at it differently and said, no, I'm taking it all. But if, looking back on it, if there were certain things that she had critiqued on, maybe I wouldn't have, but I really felt like what she hit on was spot on, And
I think once you have a few publishing or a few books under your belt that are published, you get more confident about rejecting the advice, right? I'm sure that I think if you look at oh my God, what's her name? Harry Potter.
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling's books, they got longer as they went along, right? And I think that's because probably she wrote a really long first book, but it was edited down significantly at the publisher's insistence. And once she got to superstar status, like she said, forget it. I'll take my own advice, which is what you can do at that point.
Yeah. I'm going to write a 1,000-page book and people are going to take it.
But the critique is so important to listen to. And look, I want to speak to new writers and to first time, aspiring authors. It's sometimes it's hard to hear it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But don't take it personally. Yes, it's your best work. It's your baby, but people are trying to help you with this type of critique work usually.
Yeah. I think if you're in a place like this, like, in the setting like yours and your organization, that is the mindset you should take, because everybody there is doing it for your best interest, the way they want it for themselves. I think if you're out on Facebook, then maybe you take it with a grain of salt or something. But it really depends on the environment that you're in. But I think you should take all of it. I'll take it all in and learn from it as best you can and keep going.
Have an open mind at least. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Can only lead to good, bigger and better things. Hopefully everybody listening will go and do this and also become the next J.K. Rowling. Who knows? That's the whole idea. That's we want everybody to do that. Yeah. So we're doing 3 questions. So I have the 3 questions for you. Do you want to do this now, or do you want to share screens, or how do you want to
dive in? Let's dive in. Go with your questions.
So I didn't introduce you as a freelance magazine writer, but you are. That is what you do as your profession.
One of my many hats. Yeah.
It's just one of many. So that is new. I have never actually talked to anyone who's written for a magazine. So tell the audience a little bit about what that experience is like and how they could write for a magazine.
I'm even more honored now. So yes, I am. I'm what you call a freelance writer, which means I'm not employed by any one publication to do the writing. I kind of have to pitch and then they say yes or no, whether they like the idea or not. And I want to start by saying that I'm very encouraging of other people to do this. It's a great way to get started as a writer. I think Ernest Hemingway, Edith Wharton, Jack London, William Faulkner, Alice Munro, Truman Capote, J.D. Salinger, they all started their careers writing short pieces, short stories, or Hemingway did a lot of newspaper writing, even in Toronto, where I'm hailing from. And it's great because publishing an article is so much easier than publishing a novel, right? It's an order of magnitude easier. And so once you start publishing these small pieces, you're building your platform, you're building your readership, you're building your audience, which is a great way to convince a publisher to actually publish your novel. Or if you're self-publishing, you already have these people that follow you. It's going to be way easier to sell your book, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is, I would encourage everyone not to become a writer to make money. It's not the most lucrative job in the world. It's definitely a labor of love type thing, but you can definitely get paid, especially as a freelance writer. I have, again, many hats that I wear, but one way I get paid is through writing for a magazine. I write for success.com and Success Magazine, and it's not an insignificant amount of money. I publish 1 or 2 articles a month, and it covers, a portion of my expenses, and enough that my wife and we were able to live in Mexico last year for about 5 months.
Nice.
And it paid the rent, it paid a little bit more than that. And, we got to live on the beach in Tulum for a while. So
Can't beat that.
If you want to become a digital nomad, at least when it becomes less of a life-threatening thing to travel again, definitely your writing will support that lifestyle. And I have other hats that I wear, including as a coach. And so having success.com with 2.2 million readers, publishing my work, it definitely is a funnel for my other business type of things. So, you can, there's many benefits across the board.
Yeah. And there's got to be some networking. You're connecting with fellow colleagues.
I find a lot of great people through my writing, and they come find me actually.
Which is what you want when you get to that book stage and you've written a book and now they're coming to find you on your website and you can give them something else to read that's yours. So how does that work for you though? Like, I understand the whole pitching, but if you were a novice and you had never done this before, are you sort of applying first and then they say, okay, these are the things that were topics that we're looking for, and then you pitch?
So I talked about why do it, but so now how? We're talking really about a few things. We're talking about writing articles for magazines, usually nonfiction, but you can also write for literary magazines, which means your fiction, your poetry, journalism, writing for news outlets, and then there's copywriting somewhere over here, which is just writing for people's websites and stuff like that. I did it for a while. I don't love it, but how do you get started? So, all right, well, my story, I guess I can share. It's a pretty simple way. I just wanted to be a writer, and I thought, all right, let's get some credits under my belt, some publishing credits. And so I started writing for this magazine. It was a men's magazine, online only, and they paid you $50 an article, right? So I did it. I said, all right, I'm not doing it for the money, but I'd love to get some work for my portfolio. Once I had a portfolio, I could take that to a bigger magazine, and I found success.com, and I got lucky. The first pitch I did was accepted. And they paid me quite a good rate for that one, and that got my foot in the door, and I've been writing for them ever since, which is wonderful. I would say that when you're starting out, be willing to do some unpaid work. You don't have to, but even the unpaid or $50 articles will get you a name out there. We'll be able to show editors that you can write and that people are publishing you somewhere. And I don't mean your own LinkedIn profile. I don't mean your own blog. Like someone else publishing you, because it's kind of a sign that someone else likes your writing too, right? Right. What else? To find out which magazines you want to write for, well, what do you read? If you're reading, Vogue or Cosmo, or you're reading, travel magazines, write for those, because that's what you're interested in. Write what you're interested in, and you'll be more successful in pitching. Write what's in the zeitgeist. What are people talking about right now? Black Lives Matter, COVID, the election, right? That's any editor will probably pick up an article if it's well written on those 3 subjects right now. There's many more in the zeitgeist, but write about what's current. Write about what you love, because you're an expert in that, presumably. Write about what maybe you have a unique story. Pitch that, and I'll tell you what. I'm going to share my rules for pitching, and normally I do this in my workshop that I run through So You Want to Write, which is happening on, I think it's December 5th, the next one. Rules for pitching. Follow the submission guidelines. right? Every magazine they tell you what they want and how to do it. The maximum word count, is it in a Word document or something else? Make sure you don't mess that up, because they'll automatically delete your pitch if you don't. And by the way, backing up a sec, a pitch just means send an email to an editor at a magazine, tell them what your idea for a story is. They'll tell you yes or no.
Yeah.
Next
Follow
step
directions.
Follow directions, please. Yes. After that, like, make sure it hasn't been done. If someone on this Fast Company or Esquire magazine, they've already published something like this, they're not going to probably do another one. Before you pitch, research your subject, right? Make sure you know who's talking about what out there, you're current on the subject. Then you can start drafting your email to the editor at the magazine. The subject line is probably the most important. Somewhere in there, it should say pitch or article idea, so that they know that they're getting a pitch. And then be descriptive. Don't say pitch, article about dogs, right? Be more specific.
Yeah.
Get very detailed, so that they actually want to open this. Then your first line of your email is a killer lead, like something that will hook you to read more. There's something like, I wrote one the other day. It was, when 3 large men picked me up and tried to shove me into a Land Rover, I knew it was time to kill my business, which actually happened. And I worked in Africa for a while. So, write a first sentence that they can't help but read more.
Yep. Then
every pitch is really, here's a problem I want to talk about, and here's a solution to the problem. And then you kind of finish off your pitch with why now, and then why me? Why am I the best person to write this? Which is essentially your bio. And keep it short, like 200 to 300 words. Editors are busy people. They don't want a tome. They don't want to read like 15 paragraphs about why this is the great article for them. Short, they're busy.
That's great advice. It sounds a lot like you took the recipe for a query letter on a book and adapted it to be the pitch.
There's a lot of similarities. Yes. Queries and pitches are pretty close.
Yeah, especially the subject line, the making sure that that's something that they want to open. It's the same with the query. If you don't have that killer 2 sentences, then they're not going to read down and see who you are and whatever else you have. So that's always I could use your class. I might join on December 5th, because it's the bane of my existence to take my whole book and put it in 2 sentences. I complete failure all around.
It's very hard.
Very, very hard around there. And also to have a little bravado behind it, but not be cocky, right? It's this weird line. It's an
art. It's an art, not
it really
science,
is. It is. You have to do it multiple times to get good at it. So for sure, I would do that. Yeah. One of my next questions was about what piece of advice you would give yourself, your younger self. And that's always a tough one, right? It's like just one piece of advice. What would it be? It's sort of like a list of remediating regrets, but I don't mean it that way. I mean, obviously explicit for writing, since that's the topic at hand. But what's the one thing you go back and tell yourself?
One thing
about this?
It's hard to get one thing. I could give myself lots of advice in other areas of my life. Don't do this, but don't date her. Don't go to this. Don't do this job. No, but for writing, I would say, the most important thing the advice I could give to my younger self is write about what you love and do it for the joy of it. Never for the money, never for the fame, the status, the book tour, to impress your friends, or even to like say you're a writer, like, or an author. I think those are not the greatest motivations, but like I said, this is not a money-making venture to be a writer, usually, unless you're at the top of your industry. But do it for the love of it and the joy of it, because that's, I think, why we all write, most of us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I heard somebody write once, or I read somebody write once about the bestsellers in the writing industry. So getting published was sort of like winning the lottery, and then getting to be a bestseller was winning the jackpot portion of the lottery. So
that's gravy.
It's like sort of like what they were thinking of. It's funny. I don't know how many times I've heard that advice of don't do it for the money. And obviously I'm just like you. I don't. That's not what I'm angling for. But I am surprised at how many people do sort of have that expectation, even though it's been said and it's been written and it's been talked about. It's a strange one to have so many people give that advice and have it just openly ignored.
I learned it the hard way. And I'll tell you, when I was writing for that magazine that paid $50 an article, I did maybe about a dozen of those for them, and it was no regrets, but I went into it with the feeling that, oh, I'm going to just keep increasing my rate and get
Yeah.
paid, and I can live on the beach somewhere. But I was doing these interviews for these articles. I would have to go across town and go to like 6 different bike repair shops and like interview them to find the best ones. And then people would complain because I didn't cover all of them. But anyway, it was like 20 hours of work for $50. It was crazy. So, but I loved the writing. So that was the bonus, right? It wasn't about the money. And then later in my writing career, I started writing as a copywriter. That's basically people want some copy for this product on their website, or they want like to write the whole do the whole website. It's basically promotional stuff usually.
Yeah.
I hated copywriting. Now, I don't want to discourage everyone from doing it, but because you're competing with people from the developing world where they're charging like 2 cents a word, it's very hard to get paid in copywriting. And like, I remember doing this one job. I had to do copywriting for printed circuit boards, right? The company that produced these. And I remember it was like so much work, like days and days for like $100, right? And I barely understood what I wrote at the end of it anyway, because it was so technical. But after that, I was like, you know what? I'm never, ever again going to write for money alone. I'm going to write what I love. And even now, sometimes the magazines I write for will ask me, hey, do you want to write an article about X? And I say no, because I don't have any interest, and I'm much happier for that reason.
Yeah.
So it's for the love of it and not for the money of it. Absolutely.
And it probably came through, right? Whoever read that article about circuit boards was probably like, there's no love here. There's no passion. You know what I mean? Like, it might have been knowledgeable, a knowledge base, but I think if you don't have any passion for the subject matter,
that's right. You can actually
kind of read that.
After I did the copywriting myself, you can't unsee copywriting anymore. I'll go to a website and I'll be like, someone saw the copyright. This person doesn't know what they're talking about. They're just using, corporate jargon or whatever filler. It's pretty fun now. I can like critique other people's copywriting.
I feel like you can say the same thing a little bit after you've been through the editing process, after you've been through multiple critiques. Because now I read differently. Once you're a writer, you read like a writer, which is a really strange experience, because I used to read things all the time and not think about it. It would be things I liked and things I didn't like, and it never went beyond that. I was like, oh, I just didn't like that. But now I'm like, oh, I didn't like that because this character did X, Y, Z, or I was pulled out of the story because of this, or the setting didn't make any sense, or this character did something that betrayed what their other earlier characteristics were, or the point of view is all messed up. And so it's like, I can't undo that. And sometimes it just drives me crazy because I just want to sit down. And it
can drive you crazy. It can also be a good thing in the sense that you appreciate writing a little bit more when you read it, because you see all those little nuances. You understand what the author's doing with these various techniques, and like critique groups are awesome for this. Having a alpha and a beta reader. So I don't know if your viewers know what that is, but alpha reader is like your family, your friends, the first person you send your work to, and the beta is more like someone that's at your level, that's reading a little bit more professionally. You're not paying them, but you maybe trade your books, and they trade. That's super valuable too, because people see what you can't see. We all have our blind spots. Oh yeah, especially with writing, and so. Yeah, again, like people need to share their writing. Oh, I thought of another thing to tell my younger self. Keep pitching, pitch. If you're trying to write for magazines, don't stop. And I'll tell you a story that someone told me when I was just starting out in my writing career. This was a very established author who some of your viewers might know. I won't name drop, but he was very generous. He like bought me a scotch and we sat in the bar and he gave me his writing advice. And he told me about how, this was years ago, Steven Spielberg, the filmmaker, was shopping around his new movie idea. He had this idea for a movie and went to first studio. They said, no. Okay, if you're Spielberg, you're like, I'm Spielberg. You're saying no to me? Are you crazy? He got 5 rejections from 5 different studios before another studio said yes to make his movie. I don't remember which one it was, but keep this always in mind, that even Spielberg, who has like 30 years and how many movies that were blockbusters under his belt, is still getting rejections. So
Yeah.
like Stephen King says, is all writers that are successful say this, get good at accepting rejection, because it's going to happen, and it's not a personal thing. It's part of the job. If you're a professional writer, you're going to have to get good at accepting rejection. So just keep pitching endlessly, keep querying, keep writing something different, and you will get a yes. And once your foot's in the door, you have a name for yourself, it gets easier.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great advice all around for things, but it has other values too. It's just, you know, because it's hard when you say to somebody, don't take it personally, like reviews. I give this advice on reviews all the time, and I gave a similar story where I said, you know, a lot of people don't realize, but J.K. Rowling has 1 and 2 reviews on Amazon. If you go look up any of her books, it doesn't matter what book it is. Pick a book. You know, there was the 7 or 8 or whatever of them. Pick a book, and she has 1 and 2 star reviews, and you're thinking to yourself, that's impossible. There's no way, but go and look, it actually happens. So I give the same advice for reviews, where I say, don't take it personally. That's, you know, everybody's always known the adage of it's not your cup of tea, or that there are people out there that just, you know, because they want to, or they enjoy it, or they're in their own misery, will give you a bad review. But that whole concept of don't take it personally, it is hard. It is fundamentally hard when it comes to something so deeply personal. I mean, if you're writing and you're truly writing from a good, creative, passionate place, it is some sort of piece of you that's going down on the piece of paper, even though it's completely fake. It is personal. Like, people say, don't take it personally. It's like, how can I not? This is like being stabbed. Like, how can I not take this personally?
It's a little bit of a paradox.
It really is.
I guess it helps to remember that some of those 1 and 2 star reviews are just trolls. They're like, you know, maybe 12-year-olds who didn't even read the book and just wanted to.
Or your neighbor who can't stand you, who knows you wrote the book and went out.
Yes, or someone that's having a bad day, you know, like.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Some people advocate don't ever read your own reviews of your book. You know, that's one way to do it, and just focus on creating and putting things out into the world, because not everyone's going to love your art. Art is not meant to be loved by everybody. You know, art's kind of supposed to be shocking and uncomfortable for a lot of people. That's kind of goes with the territory of art and writing, especially. So
yeah, for sure. It's great advice.
Getting good at the criticism is a muscle you build, right? You just have to keep hearing it, and you'll get over it.
And you know, it won't be easy the first time, but maybe it'll be, you know, less hard. Right.
Yeah,
maybe that's the attitude is, no, it's going to hurt the first time. Like, just be honest. It's going to hurt the first time you have a critique. It's going to hurt the first time that you have a bad review. Yeah. It's in no matter what the number is, that it isn't 5, it's going to hurt. You know, a 4 is still a good, but hey, it's a 4 and maybe you only had 5s. It's going to hurt. It's just, I guess the idea would be that it hurts less and less as you go through, and you build up that maybe exterior.
my first time getting feedback was traumatizing. I think I had a beer after that or 2. But you know what, eventually you get to a point where you're like, it's you know, some of it is not helpful feedback, and the other stuff is probably helpful, and I should maybe listen to it.
Yeah. And I imagine that comes with time too, understanding the difference between those two.
Time and maturity and experience.
Yeah. Like someone just telling you your book is crap. I always give people that example, ignore it, because that's not a critique. That's someone's opinion who couldn't formulate in enough words to be helpful. And so you should ignore it immediately. But somebody says, you know, there were so many characters, I was confused and I was lost and I stopped halfway. Well, that could be really helpful. Granted, maybe that's not the genre that they read, but that's still really helpful if you could think about that next time you go to write something that had a lot of characters. Yeah, exactly. So, and telling the distinction between those is really helpful. So, but you have been very generous with your time, so I don't want to take up too much more of it, but you founded this organization, and I know we started there and kind of came back around. Yeah. So your third question kind of revolved around the writer training in the company that you started. So what else do you want to tell the viewers about that?
Yeah, I guess I gave you the Coles Notes version of soyouwanttowrite.org, but maybe it's as easiest if I show you. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me figure out how to do that. Share screen.
Yeah, it's right down the middle in the green suitcase.
I think you got to click the security and
let me see.
Enable that.
Share screen.
Oh, I can do it now. Great. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Cool. So this is our little project / growing company, I guess. So You Want to Write. We basically our job is to connect writers, especially new writers, with experts like literary agents, publishers, editors, authors. And we kind of start with, the free stuff, which is really great, hopefully great content on our blog. So, right now we're doing the top 10 tips for writing great short stories, because we have, a workshop on that coming up. We did the ultimate guide to writing YA. We had someone go and collect all the best information about writing YA and put that into one single document. Here's another one about writing nonfiction. So, take a look at the blog, and there's some helpful content there. And then if you feel like your book needs to have someone in the publishing industry look at it and give you specific advice, then take a look at the one-on-one meetings. So we have a bunch of literary agents and authors here that will sit with you on Zoom for 45 minutes, read 20 pages of your book beforehand, and give you like that market industry insider feedback that you probably can't get from just a random critique group. We have a bunch of workshops that we run every year. So, for example, we have How to Write Short Stories coming up with author Tevis Skodra, who's also the editor-in-chief of our magazine, which is Raconteur Literary Magazine. We have myself, I'm doing How to Write for Magazines coming up in December. And then we do also these longer programs, which is kind of where I started with Sam Hyatt on his couch. We did 8 weeks with Sam. Now we're doing 12 weeks with Sam, with another literary agent from Curtis Brown. And everyone shares their work on Slack beforehand, shares a chapter of their work. Then you get some feedback on a Zoom call, and then we do a little bit Slack check-ins throughout the week. And people are really writing their books and improving them in a very short span of time. 12 weeks goes by fast, but it really seems to be working for people. So we kind of encourage people that are serious about their books to do that one. But
and it's 12 weeks. Are you doing something once a week with someone, or is it sort of continuous? You're getting communication during that 12 weeks.
Yeah. So generally we're meeting once a week, on like a Saturday or a Monday. And it's led by one of these literary agents who are giving you the expert advice, but you're also getting the peer feedback inside the room, 2 hours at a time. The work has been shared beforehand, so everyone's read everyone else's work. It's 6 or 8 people maximum, so really small, intensive groups. And like the progress is amazing. It's phenomenal. It's how I got my start in writing too, with sitting on that couch. Now we don't have a couch; we have a Zoom room. Yeah.
Well, that is fantastic. And I know the viewers, especially I belong to a pretty big author group out on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I think they're really going to love this. I think they're going to get a lot out of this
Hope so.
This meeting.
Hope so.
And I'm so grateful that you came on the show
with fun.
me, and so happy to connect.
Yes.
And I'm happy to promote this, and I'm going to be poking around myself. I think everybody should. I think everybody should be striving to be better. And I think that's great. There are organizations like this out there. So thank you for this, and thank you for this.
A real pleasure.
For this meeting. It was absolute pleasure meeting you.
Awesome.
Thanks everybody for watching, and go check out the website as soon as you can. So
thanks, everybody.
Bye.